deathly serious about fixing the situation at the southern border. This is not the first time I'm on your program talking about what's happening on the Mexican-U.S. border. We've been talking about it for months. 6 months ago, we told everybody it was an emergency situation. Very few people believed us. In fact, I talked with you about how the Democrats even refused to believe the facts 6 months ago. So it's real. We had a group of 1,000 people, not in different times, one group of 1,000 people walk across the border just in the last couple of days. 2,500 people are coming over every single day as opposed to 700 just 2 years ago. So the numbers are huge. The situation is real, and the president is deadly serious about fixing the problem.
All right. The president says, in his words, that this problem must be, quote, remedied. And the question is, what does that mean? What specifically do the Mexicans have to do, and how will he judge whether or not they've met his goal?
There's a couple different things they can do, and in fact, Bob Lighthizer is meeting with Mexicans this week. Mike Pompeo is meeting with the Mexican representatives this week, along with Mr. Kushner, I believe, and we're going to talk with them about specific things they can do, and they know these things. They can secure their southern border with Guatemala, and most of the people who are coming in through Mexico now are not Mexicans. They are from Guatemala and El Salvador, other countries south of Mexico. That border is only a quarter as long as the border with the United States. They could secure that border. They could go after their domestic terrorist organizations, their criminal organizations who are in the business of moving people across Mexico. Keep in mind, at any one time, there's 100,000 migrants in Mexico making their way up to the United States. And lastly, they could make Mexico a safe place for these people to claim asylum. Ordinarily, when you leave a country like El Salvador and you claim asylum, you do that in the first safe country in which you arrive. Mexico is safe. The people should be able to stay there if they're really seeking asylum. So the specific things that the Mexicans can do. Regarding the measure, we intentionally left the declaration sort of ad hoc so that we could work with the Mexicans to make sure that things did get better. So there's no specific target, there's no specific percentage, but things have to get better, they have to get dramatically better, and they have to get better quickly.
All right, let's talk about the possible downsides that a lot of people are raising. The U.S. imported last year $350 billion in Mexican goods, everything from cars to avocados. Now, if the president ends up imposing, it's going to start as a 5% tariff, but by October, if things haven't been remedied, that's a 25% tariff. That would amount to a $87 billion tax increase on American companies and consumers.
Two different answers to that. First of all, that's sort of, yeah, I get that. That's the economic orthodoxy that when tariffs go up, consumer prices go up. But the proof is in the pudding. There is no inflation. Prices have not gone up. We put tariffs on China. We're putting tariffs on Mexico. And inflation is still under control. That's because that old-fashioned economic orthodoxy doesn't work when it's relatively easy to substitute other goods. Prices from China have gone up. American consumers have gone to products that are made in the United States, for example, that don't carry those tariffs. We think the same thing will happen here, and American consumers will not pay for the burden of these tariffs. Secondly, the second part to your answer is this, which is there's already a price associated with illegal immigration. American taxpayers are paying hundreds of billions of dollars for illegal immigrants. They're paying hundreds of billions of dollars for the drugs that come across the southern border. So there is already a cost associated with this that we are trying to get off of the backs of ordinary Americans.
All right, let me go to the next concern that people have, which is that this is going to blow up other trade deals. Congressional leaders of both parties, including Republicans, say that this could end up killing congressional passage of the USMCA, the rewrite of NAFTA. And they point out a country like China, for instance. Why make a deal with the U.S. if the president will then turn around and raise tariffs anyway because of some other issue?
Let's deal with the Mexican situation before we talk about China. But the answer to that is this, is that we've been very specific from the minute that this proclamation went out that this was an immigration matter. It is not a trade matter. So the USMCA is a trade discussion. That's ongoing. That's why Bob Lighthizer is meeting with his Mexican counterparts this week. This is an immigration matter, and the two are separate. We could solve one. We hope we solve both, but the two are not interrelated. We believe that the USMCA is a great deal for the United States of America. We think it's also a good deal for our Mexican and Canadian partners, and we hope that Congress would pass it. In fact, we believe very firmly that if Nancy Pelosi would simply give it a vote, it would pass because it's a good deal. So we put that in one category. The immigration, the situation on the southern border is a different issue. It's a national security issue, and we'll deal with it separately than the USMCA.
But you talk about immigration. A lot of people say, because the president even today has been tweeting saying, look, what will happen here if this goes on is that companies in Mexico will decide they don't want to pay the tariffs. They'll move back to the U.S., creating more jobs here. The flip side of that is then a lot of Mexicans lose their job, and the concern is that a lot of them come over the border to the U.S., and that the whole end result of this is it creates more illegal immigration, not less.
No, but it's what you just described is a great reason for the Mexican government to engage to help fix the problem. And in fact, you've seen in the last 24 hours, Mexican President Obrador has already reached out and said that he thinks they can do better. He thinks they will do better, and they're sending up a delegation for the first part of this week. So what you just laid out is factually probably not inaccurate, but that is the exact reason we did this, to put pressure on Mexico to help us solve this situation. We think they can do that. They've got tremendously strong immigration laws, much stronger than ours. They have the ability to do things that we cannot. Congress will not help us fix our laws, so we're turning to Mexico to help us fix the situation on the border, and we think what you've just described is the exact reason that they will help us.
All right, let's turn to a few other issues in the time we have left. Let's start with Special Counsel Robert Mueller. Here was the president's reaction today to his comments, Mueller's comments.
I think he's totally conflicted because, as you know,